Welcome to the first episode of K-Pysäkki podcast, or simply KP, which can mean many things. In Finnish, KP is a settled term for kuulematta paskaa. When someone describes an unknown band to another and the response is KP, it means I don't wanna hear it, I know it is crap. But in this case, KP stands for Kontula-pysäkki, as well as Kontula Podcast. In the core of the program is to interview artists who are unknown to the public, who possess the fire to do art without the aim to get rich, rather with the self-therapeutic aspect, for the love of the game. Mainly the guests will be from Kontula area, which is one of the biggest suburbs in Finland. Sometimes the guests will not have a direct connection to Kontula, but they do possess the underground mentality. As technology and artificial intelligence is progressing day by day, we might come to wonder, what is the purpose of making authentic art? This is the human aspect, and that's what this podcast will emphasize. Searching in darkness with eyes of the blind, and in the morning, two will remain, to carry us onward, to guard the flame. So, to introduce the first episode, it was made in UG. The guest is Ugandan and also underground. He is guitarist of a band called Vale of Amonition. And for me personally, the journey there was eye-opening. Sometimes you need to travel far to see close. This program is not about me, the host. It's about giving voice to the guest. It is a constant challenge for a human being to be able to listen twice as much as we speak. But that is something we should practice, otherwise we are likely to end up alone in this world. We have been given 2 ears and 1 mouth after all. So here with me is Mr. Solomon Dust from Ugandan doom metal band Vale of Amonition. Maybe you can just freely introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me. So yes, the name is Solomon Dust. That's the band name, but obviously I do go by another name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to disclose this just in case someone might stalk me.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Yeah.
We are currently 35 years of age. I've been doing doom metal for quite some time, probably about 15 years. My official, let's say, attempt to do like music maybe semi-professionally, I would like to call it that, was with my first band that I joined, which is Vale of Amonition.
Cool. So you joined the band in 2016, right?
Correct. Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
And so what did you do before that?
It's funny enough. I used to just play guitar on my own, and I was at university most of the time. So when I was done with university, I had some free time, and I'm like, I think now I should, explore. Let me see what bands are playing. I want to go and see some like gigs, probably join a band. So I do the normal thing: go to Facebook. Every metal bands in Uganda.
Hmm.
Of course, I kind of had heard of Vale of Amonition, but I hadn't really listened
Mm.
to Vale of Amonition. So I write to them actually. I write to Victor. I was writing to Vale of Ammunition at the time.
Yeah.
That hey, I'm glad that you guys are doing something that's not in Uganda because they're the only ones who came out apart from threatening. And I'm like, when do you guys perform? On what days? I would like to come and watch you guys play. Well, the Vale wrote back to me and it said, well, right now we're not really playing anything, but we will keep you updated. Of course, we got to talk, so what do you do? Currently, at the time I had no work, so I was like, I do practice guitar from time to time, and they fell asked, oh, by the way, we are looking for a bassist.
Fortunate.
I'm like, bass? I've never played bass before, but let's meet up and
Let's
talk.
find out.
Yeah. So I eventually we set up a time, meet the Veil.
Mm.
I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm going to see. And I meet Victor
Yeah.
Rosra at the time. He has gone through many versions of himself, very many names. But so yes, we meet. Obviously, we talk metal, we
Yeah.
talk history of the band. Who's been there, who's been consistent. At the time, I think one of the consistent members was Jeff, and he was the bassist, but he had moved to Kenya, so now there was a gap. And at the time, there was also Glenn who was on the drums. So it was Victor, Glenn, and Jeff. So Victor was playing the guitars with the bass and Glenn the drums. When Jeff left, there was a bit of a gap in the bass, so they asked me. So we kept talking, and then he's like, you know what? How about you write something first and we see what happens? I'm like, but well, if I'm here on bass duties, so I don't know. But it's like, no, you write the guitars or compose. He gave me some ideas on what he wanted the outcome to be like. I wrote. I had never composed before. First composition was the song, the first single that we released, which was about painting green. That was the first thing I wrote. When I sent it to Victor, he said, you know what, I changed my mind. I think you not play the bass. You need to play guitar.
Okay. Yeah.
And from there, we decided to write for like a full-length album.
Wow. Yeah.
We became very close friends up to this day.
Yeah. So the planets were aligned on your.
I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. You pretty much answered already something from who were the original lineup and who were consistent in the beginning and so on. So the first demo came out 2010.
Yeah, at the time I was not yet.
Yeah, yes. So it's pretty much like Victor Rosefrat's his vision, this band, or.
I admire his drive. It's not easy. It is really not easy. Even on a global scale, to stick to a band idea for so many years, it is not easy. So, great drive, great determination to form something as powerful as that and keep driving it. And for me, it was easy. When I met him, it was easy for us to resonate because I'm committed as well. I'm like, if you're going this direction, we're going this direction. That's why I believe we've managed to stick together to this day. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you manage to stick together? Because Victor apparently lives in Canada and the rest in Kenya and you in Congo.
Yeah. I believe it is an evolution with the times. Before you actually, when I joined in 2016, we used to meet every Friday. Every Friday to discuss ideas, you know, discuss direction, like real back and forth, like really, really, really strong back and forth. I mean, most of if you're like a duo in a band, or because at the time which we were, you're not really playing live gigs, so your focus is on writing music. So
Yeah.
how we managed to keep in touch, we just kept talking, back and forth. Thank God for the internet, you know. At the time it was available, so we would just exchange ideas. I play something, I send it to him, he listens to it, he says, I don't know about this, maybe you should change this. He's the quality controller. So yeah. And it has been like that to this day. It's frustrating, of course, the writing takes long.
Yeah.
It
So
works.
yeah, he's the quality controller, and but you get to throw in ideas. The rest of you
Yes.
yes. So that's pretty much what I was asking for. That it's not just a dictatorship, but it,
No.
it has a leader.
Yeah, that's, and of course the band has now kind of welcomed in a bit more people right now. We no longer just rely on just the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is Mordecai. He's in Kenya. He does the bass duties now, and of course he doesn't influence a lot, but his input is very key because back in the first full length we wrote with Victor, and it is you write all the guitar parts, you write all the bass parts,
Yeah.
quite a very long time in the studio. But now, no need to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, I was thinking about to ask a little about why there is so little metal bands from Africa in general. Like it's a huge continent. There's musicians. Why metal is so?
I think it's uh, I think it's just an exposure thing. People are not exposed, and then also at the same time, it is a cultural thing. Unfortunately, Africa in general are very spiritual people, or I would say people who like are not very. It might sound wrong, but they're not very complex at their core. Like they prefer the simple things of life. They don't want to overcomplicate the life. So, and Africa is mostly, so most of them like to dance, rhythm and percussion, and the string instruments, of course, different. Africa has many tribes and many facets of cultures. So different. So we didn't have many string instruments apart from the one I know. It's like a I don't know how to. In a lot, it's called an adungu, but it's like let's say how you would see a harp, or in a
Yeah,
way.
we have in Finland something called kantele, which is
Yeah.
maybe similar. I don't know, but
Yeah, and then we had the tampion, but it was mostly
mostly like
percussion.
rhythm. Yeah,
Yeah, very rhythm based.
yeah,
And heavy metal, on the other hand, is obviously okay. Some genres are very heavily rhythm driven and very percussive, but the audible, like they can't dance, like you can't dance to heavy metal,
exactly.
And someone is going to be like, "How am I supposed to dance to something? I can't even hear what."
But actually, like I have to like intervene a little bit because in the suburb where I live, we have an Africa bar. It's called Kippari. It means the sailor or something like this. So anyway, so their DJ plays all the various genres. Of course, it's mainly on the reggae side, but every now and then there becomes because whoever there is DJ, they have a little eye who is there. So there's one white guy who is like has a long hair. So every now and then, once that, I remember last time they put like AC/DC's Thunderstruck, and I was like, okay, people can dance to some heavy rock or something. And it's a funny thing that there's one Senegalese guy who is a regular there, and he takes the bongo and starts beating whatever song there is. Like it can be heavy, it can be Finnish evergreens, and they start like putting their African mix into it. But yeah, in these kind of places, which are cultural melting pots, these kind of things happen. But
and like you said, the DJ has an eye, so it's also a form of conditioning. Like I give you the rhythm aspect, and then I drop in something that is not your taste, but you're like, you know what? Actually, I can work with this. So over time, if you condition someone to that, they can find a way.
Yeah.
You know. But what I meant originally, why there are so many, very few metal bands in Africa, and you can't just see it in Africa. And it's the world in general to accept heavy metal has been. It's just that on the African side, it was a bit harder. And it was obviously associated with, evenness, like how the rest of the world it was. I remember at the time when I was still in secondary school or high school, if you may say. So as you're growing up as a kid, we don't have many radio stations playing heavy metal or rock. You just listen to what's available. But then a few stations, like a station or two, came up and they would play a bit of rock. And okay, you start to listen to it, before you've been listening to all the hip hop and then the reggae, and then you're listening to, okay, this music sounds interesting. And when we heavily listened to it, it came to a point that they actually had to play some DVDs in school. To say that the music you're listening to is very evil. I think the DVD was called "They Sold Their Souls to the Devil." Something like that. It was about, but even the artists were talking about, it was just kind of a joke to me.
Yeah.
But
it was in Finland in the 80s. There was this kind of very like Christians wanted to to put, and they were talking about bands like Wasp and Iron Maiden and these very basic heavy metal bands that these are evil, and there was like Christians telling this kind of propaganda that drumsticks were flying by themselves in the studio where Iron Maiden were recording Number of the Beast or whatever, totally like something out of the hat, but they want to portray this propaganda to people that heavy metal is bad.
That's okay. That's one of the things, association with people. But at the core of it all, Africans are really generally happy people, and they like to have a good time. And yes, you can have a good time in heavy metal, but on the cultural side, you listen to reggae and raga. They want to move their bodies. They're not going to headbang.
But are you familiar that there's some kind of a scene in Botswana?
Like the guy with the leather,
the Cowboys,
the Cowboys. Yeah.
Because it's a Finnish label who released this Brutal Africa, it's a compilation, and it's mainly Botswana bands in that.
Actually, South. Like I said, exposure. Exposure is very important. Also, this might come out very bad, but I'm a pragmatist and I see what I see. Also, interacting with other cultures helps in understanding, different kinds of music. Now, in East Africa, there is not a huge foreign. Okay, maybe now there is, but it's not really been a huge foreign presence prior.
Yeah.
But you find countries like Botswana, Namibia, like they are white people who are actually Africans. So, that culture mixes up, and it's not that so much of a foreign idea
Yeah.
compared to say West Africa, Central Africa, and East Africa. In southern ends, it is okay because even North Egypt, Egypt, Morocco, they are closer to those influences. But where it is mostly a huge homogeneous population of Africans without interacting with other musical cultures, yeah, it's not going to be easy. I can guarantee you that if there was like a, a group of guys who are foreigners and who are playing heavy metal on a regular basis in Uganda, you could find the scene could actually suddenly grow, exposure.
Yeah, because I think in Botswana there's some kind of like safari tourism, and those Westerners started to bring like Motorhead and whatever, like this kind of early heavy rock, heavy metal albums to the country, and that's how it sparked.
Yeah. So it's for me, it's exposure. It's also the idea of exposure also comes from meaning that there is a bit of a lack of understanding and associating the music with. When you see the people who are playing this music in leather pants, they are putting on face paint, corpse paint, they are wearing studs, they are having long hair. No African parent is going to be like, my child, I think that is okay.
Yeah.
Most parents are going to be like, no.
Yeah, so that was pretty much like one question. You were already like touching it already, like the spiritual side. That how do you see it? The population in general is the majority like Christian, and do they deem heavy metal as witchcraft?
They do view heavy metal on a general basis, not all. Of course, with the current age now, people are a bit more aware, but yeah, it's viewed as satanic, or was viewed as satanic. And Africa has a balance, actually, surprisingly. Africa is balanced between the Islam, Muslims, and Christians. Of course, the Christians have kind of a slightly bigger population, I would say, but there's equally as many actually in Africa. Okay, in Uganda. Let me
Yeah,
speak.
let's speak about Uganda.
Let's speak.
It's easier.
I could also speak for Kenya and DRC because I've been there. That a Christian can be okay with you not being a Christian, but at least you are a Muslim. Like you believe in something. Like, and in between is like, what kind of person are you? Like, how can you exist without believing something greater than you?
Yeah.
So when it comes to spirituality, it is so core. I think even generally for people, but say for Africans, it's so core that at least if you are like if you're Christian, Christians and Muslims, even families will not mix, but at least if a Christian is talking to a Muslim, they will respect kind of the Muslim because they know this person is living for something greater than themselves. But if you are an individual who does not believe in a higher power, something is suddenly wrong with you. Because at the core of it all, at least believe in something, believe in the winds, in the gods, in witchcraft. But you just cannot be there and think that your existence is solely based on just you as an individual.
Yeah, because that's when you suffer, when you think you can control everything. But when you accept that there's something beyond,
pushing your destiny.
Yeah. Because that's what I think is like the most dangerous road when you're a materialistic, just believe that you have to work to get money and to get bread to the table, and that's very but that's how in our culture in Finland I think most of the people are materialistic. They don't they don't waste their time thinking about religion or spirituality, but there's some, but they are a minority. Of course, there's majority who belong to the church, but it's just because they want at some point marriage at church, get wed in a church. It's just the formal thing that nobody really believes. It doesn't affect their life. So this is why I think like in Finland, the black metal scene, it's a little bit like I don't say a joke, but a little bit like it's not the same as in different parts of the world, because in our society, Christianity isn't a strong institution. There's nothing to revolt against because they are weak. They don't have any hold of people's lives. So in some places where Christianity is very strong, it's much more hardcore to play.
It is, and I would say I think just saying materialistic, maybe a bit harsh. I would say secular.
Yeah.
You know, secular. Yeah. So being secular, being okay, being worldly, being of this world, and nothing more. You know, the concept that all you care about is, you know, what we have, we work, and that is, everything else does not matter. The secular concept. For me, my belief, my true belief is that at a general core of most African people or black people is that they are really very passionate people, like very deeply passionate, and like I say, very simple, like not very complicated, and so believing in something greater than you and not worrying about, you know, oh, why is this not working out, is for me kind of like a comforting approach, which is good. You know, it's good for the, hey, why is this bad thing happening to me? You know, let's pray, or maybe we've not sacrificed. So like generally spiritual. So when Christianity is introduced and it has a good argument, someone who's already very spiritual, it will make sense. Same thing with Islam, same thing with each witchcraft. So at the deep down of it all, African people are generally hugely driven of the supernatural, you know.
Yeah.
To find you being very secular, you are going to stick out hugely, very hugely. And heavy metal, on the other hand, is about rebelling against, heavy metal or extreme music in general is about, I am not accepting society norms. So definitely you're going to stand out, and it's not going to be very good. And we've written a couple of songs that have invoked some. Actually, there's a song we have called "Revisiting the Bitterness of God," and one of our EPs also has one called "The Glory of Hell." And some people are like, really?
Yeah, you know, no, like as you know, like heavy metal also is not necessarily spiritual. That there are those like, but for my personal taste, they were always like, you know, there is the bands like Mötley Crüe and Van Halen, those like who are about partying or such like this, who are like girls, and whatever, drinking, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, this kind of thing. So that never really appealed to me, but those bands who were like into more epic things, like abstract things, like who were speaking about mythologies and.
Are we going to talk about influences now? Because
yes,
now that you bring it up, you're absolutely right. Actually, I am very, very, very influenced by European bands, or Scandinavian bands. Because you're right, the lyrics, maybe it goes back to the spiritual aspect, because when the lyrics are, when you sing about, like you feel like you're going places. It's, you know, it's about the cosmos. You know, it's about loss. It's about grief. It's melancholy. You know, it's not sex.
Yeah.
And, you know, I resonate with that 100%. Those are things that for me influence me. And I believe I know I cut you off, and you probably have a thought. Maybe let me
No,
let you
we are
finish.
interviewing you, so not me.
No. But maybe let me let you finish your thought before I continue.
Okay, it was yeah, it's just about my personal taste that those bands who were about sex, drugs, and rock and roll that they were mm, they were less serious. They were about partying, and I was always feeling myself as how do you say an outsider in the society. So those things were far from me. So always like I wanted maybe there was deep inside me something that I wanted to believe there's something larger than me, and that's maybe why in an early age those kind of bands that were speaking about mythologies and especially this epic thing, like for example one of the favorite bands for me is Virgin Steel, which isn't
But
that,
you still kick ass.
yeah, and they are about Greek mythologies mostly, also Roman, but that kind of thing that that's there's nuances of it's not just about darkness and like this kind of mainly, but there are so much nuances because the frontman David Defay, his father was a opera like actor, so he wants to do this heavy metal opera thing, and there is so much nuances of emotions and so on, and it's so much larger than life. So this kind of thing always appealed to me, the epic heavy metal thing. So okay.
I hope, yeah, maybe just clarify some people might say, oh, they're saying heavy metal. But when I say heavy metal, I mean like metal in general.
Yeah.
When black metal, doom metal, metal
Mhm.
death. I'm saying metal in general. I'm just using heavy metal for context. But anyway, you're right. You're definitely right because remember what I said before that Africans in general are very spiritual people, but I think also the human being is also spiritual in a sense, and that energy is going to be directed in one way or another. And yeah, definitely, when I listen to certain metal bands, I get carried away. Is that spiritual? Maybe I
Mm.
don't know. Like if I'm listening to, uh, if I'm listening, say to. Okay, the bands that are going to sing about drugs and alcohol and party, I don't get carried away.
Mm.
You know, of course, maybe that kind of genre does have its moment to invoke a certain aggressive, mentality. But if you want to feel uh, something, those are not bands you're going to listen to. You're going to listen, like you say, bands that are going to talk about like it's interesting, of course, that right now that the band is over repeating itself. But one of the bands I actually liked, and the name was actually very, very provocative. Like if my parents knew I listened to this band, they would be like, "What is going on?" It's Rotting Christ.
Okay, yeah.
So back in the day when I was listening to Rotting Christ, and they do sing in Greek, and they're talking about all these religious like historical things and what, and it is actually very informative. There's a lot of information from metal.
Mm.
I think that's why maybe I like it because it sounds as coarse as it is at its base, but it is a very intellectual genre of
Yeah,
music.
yeah. It challenges the listener because it's not something already chewed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least most of the metal.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me in particular, I do love Scandinavian bands.
Mm.
Of course, Finland is pouring out most of the metal, or has used to, uh, including Sweden and Norway, not so much. But maybe Finland, the Finnish people are spiritual. Maybe that's why they can be able to write such music. I don't know.
Yeah. Well. Well, yeah, I guess. Well, at least we are melancholic, and we like to have distance around ourselves because there is very few of us. There's 5 million in a large country, so it's much different than Kampala, for example.
We are 40 something.
Exactly. So to understand this spiritual landscape is, yeah, like, but it's, yeah, spiritual, you could say, but it's divided. Like, you can't. I've lived all my life in capital areas, so people are maybe more materialistic. But maybe when you go to rural areas, there is different forms of beliefs. But in general, Finland was one of the last places Christianity ever took place in Europe. Like, took foot in, and.
By the way, when I'm saying spiritual, I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about
I totally
all
understand.
the other things.
Yeah. And it's a long story, But we have our history of Same paganism, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Lapland is shamanist.
Paganism is spirituality.
Exactly. And that kind of thing can be heard in Beherit, for example. Which is like our first wave black metal band, who are now again making gigs after decades of hiatus.
Oh,
yeah. So in Beherit, especially, this kind of trance-like aspect can be sensed, because there's often it's very monotonous, and I feel that the driving force is to get you into that trance-like state, and that's spirituality. But yeah, I know very well Christianity is not the same thing as spirituality, but it's not the point of this interview. We could talk about it forever, but yeah. So okay. So Vale of Amonition is definitely a doom metal band. Which were the doom metal bands that influenced? Maybe you, or maybe the band itself.
I can tell you 100% that Vale of Amonition's doom metal influences are huge. I think I speak for everyone who has ever been a part of Vale of Ammunition. Black Sabbath holds the flag.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. I don't know how you can play Doom and not.
Of course.
I not love Black Sabbath. Yeah, of course. But Merciful Fate.
Yes.
Some of the bands are going out of my head. But this is, I'm speaking general of not, these are not personal, but I'm saying like general Vale of Amonition. Wow, Solitude Attainers.
Whoa, yeah.
Solstice, of course, that's a bit new. That's a bit new now. Wow, Morbid Angel.
Yeah.
Morbid Angel. Of course, huge mention, kudos. My Dying Bride.
Whoa, yeah, I love them.
Yeah, they did. They really, for me, they influenced at least my early writings in a huge way.
Yeah, but I have to say something about My Dying Bride, because they just recently released news that the singer has departed, and now they have some Finnish guy taking part, and everybody.
I need to catch up on my social medias.
Yeah,
Finnish guy.
Yeah. And people are like, even Finnish people are like, well, that's not gonna be My Dying Bride. Like,
yeah,
who cares?
we all know it's Aaron who's My Dying Bride.
Yeah.
But he's in another band which sounds like Paradise Lost. So maybe he always wanted to do Paradise Lost music, and he got his chances.
Yeah, and they did. My Dying Bride did this side project called Christ Blood back in 1990.
Okay.
And nobody knew that it was them, because there was no internet or everything. Yeah. They made a very lousy cassette tape, self-printed on white, black, some blurry shit, and it was called Christ Blood. And they said it's from Iceland, and it was like some. It's really raw sounding,
like OG stuff.
Yeah, and now you can know it was actually the My Dying Bride wanting to do this
Something.
mystical black metal project, which is they try to sell it out as something Icelandic, even though they are British men.
I think artists like you probably can have an idea going into a band in the beginning, but because it is a joint effort, maybe there may be two drivers who are writing the direction for the band. But I think as you grow up and you want to change direction, it's where now band members start going out and forming side projects to go and relieve their old ideas of back in the day, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if some members of My Dying Bride said that project again. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
never know.
Yeah,
But it's-
that's another thing I was about to mention, that in doom metal, the scene itself, it doesn't matter to the fan base too much. Are you Christian or pagan or Satanist or whatever? Because there are bands. Yeah, Black Sabbath were pretty much like they were Christians, and they just tried to portray Satan as some metaphorical evil, and it's something to be afraid of. Or
I think it's all what heavy metal does. I think they have. Oh, well, some may take it seriously, but for me, I always be like, I think they just do it to poke at Christianity and to just disturb them and make fun of them.
But,
You know.
yeah, but there are much clearer examples of Christian bands. For example, like
100%. Impending Doom, I think is a Christian.
Trouble. Candlemas has already also.
Candlemas is not a Christian.
Well,
Candlemas is actually also one of Vale of Amonition.
Yeah, well, they have at least like a song. One album is called "This Tales of Creation," for example. They are not fully Christian, but they are not afraid to make a fully Christian
The Bible is a very rich book to pick influence from.
Exactly.
I wouldn't mind writing an entire album based off the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has its merits and it has its definitely downside. That one. But it's a good book.
Yeah.
Anyone should read the Bible. And I don't think, and you're right, like doom metal, you're not judging whether someone is pagan or you just listening to like the concept that someone is trying to implore. Yeah. So to mention, yes, Candlemas is up there, and obviously so many other influences that I cannot mention fully right now.
Yeah.
But for me, on my end personally, definitely Catatonia is up there in influences. A bit new, but Swallow the Sun.
Yeah, that's Finnish band.
Yeah, I love Swallow the Sun.
Well, it's already probably more than 20 years old, but it's not one of the pioneers.
It's not exactly. That's why I say a bit new.
Yeah,
yeah. Because by the time I started getting access to metal, what you could get access to was what could be available for you to listen. You couldn't listen to the underground stuff, not in Uganda. In Uganda, how are you going to have access to? Because most underground bands are not even releasing some stuff to the record label. So what I had access to were bands that were probably, maybe now I don't necessarily need to listen to bands with record labels, but the influences that I've been writing with all help me, okay, I can relate to such bands.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about doom metal in Finland. Okay, I have to mention Reverend Bizarre. They were not the first. They were not the first doom metal band by far in Finland, but they created, I think, through them, the curiosity towards doom metal was reborn. Yeah, they I think their first album came out 2002 or 3.
Wow.
So around those times, people really started to talk about doom metal, because before that it was like something ancient or not so interesting. It was a marginal thing. Yeah. But when Reverend Bizarre released their first album, it was like, whoa, they sound so traditional and retro, but still they don't sound exactly like anyone else. Yeah. Like they kind of gave rebirth. Yeah. And alongside when they were active, there was bands who started doing a little bit similar things. They started to pop out bands who were playing traditional doom metal. But let me go back to 90s. There was doom metal bands like Hergotton and Unholy who were like funeral doom. So that's a totally different genre.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, even Doom itself, like, it's not the easiest music to get into, you know?
Yeah.
Even the metal, you know, I would say scene sometimes makes fun of it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
when are you going to play your next notes? You know,
Yeah.
you know, or why are you singing epically all the time? You know, because I'm but Primordial.
Oh yeah.
I love Primordial is also one of the influences. So, just needed to mention.
Yeah, and to go back to early days in Finnish, maybe doom and heavy in general, Sarcophagus is like must be pretty much the first heavy metal band, or at least in this kind of mythological, who were making this kind of mythological aspect in their music in heavy metal, and that's very much a doom thing. But they weren't called a doom metal band in the early 80s because maybe that genre wasn't even born even before Candlemas's Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. That's the which defined the genre.
Do you know what's funny is that right now, of course, it's good to categorize the subgenres, but right now I think people are just writing music at this point. You're just writing what is influencing you at that moment. Sticking to a particular formula right now, some bands are, but a lot of bands are evolving. You know, they're not trying to be strict to their ordinaries, and of course, it's upsetting some people, some fans. But even as Vale of Amonition, when the first beginning of Vale of Amonition and what is right now, or what is possibly in the kitchen right now. Someone could easily say, what is happening to Vale of Amonition? But I think bands do evolve. You cannot say that you are the same person 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Some new things happen in your life and you want to make a bit of it. At the core, you are what you are. And, you know, you pick influences. You know, you love some black metal, you love some death metal, and you want to evoke an emotion, and you feel death metal has that emotion, but you also feel black metal has that emotion, and epic doom does have the emotion, and you're going to write around that, and what is it going to be called? Epic doom death.
Yeah, for some it doesn't matter, does it need to be pigeonholed or not, but if you tell a person, have you heard this band, and he's like, okay, what's it about, then you maybe need to have a little reference by saying it's but there are bands who stick to what they did in their first album, and then there are bands who evolve, and neither is right or wrong. Yeah. So we're talking about another Ugandan interesting cultural phenomena called Wakaliwood. So
Speaking of, I need to check with how far my friend went with them, because a friend of mine from Germany, he actually came and I think he did like a small scene with them. Yeah, they were like with a shotgun and everything. I think probably a year ago or two ago, they should have something. They did something with Wakaliwood, but yeah, these guys are quite famous. They're like the Bollywood of Uganda. You know, very theatrical. You know, exaggerated blood, exaggerated. It's funny CGI, but it's interesting, and I've not watched like a whole full blown movie, but I commend the effort they are making. It's nice.
Yeah, but when I was speaking to my friends in Finland, I'm planning a trip to Uganda, and they were like, "Yeah, you need to go find out who killed Captain Alex."
Alex.
Because so many people in our generation know Wakaliwood.
Yeah,
Like that's the one thing they knew
who
from.
killed Captain Alex?
Yeah, that's the one thing they know from Uganda.
I need to find out the song they did with Heaven Shall Burn.
Yeah.
What's the name? I forget the name, but of course, it's hard to listen to the song and listen to Wakaliwood interjecting, but I like the gesture. I like that Heaven Shall Burn reached out
Yeah.
and did that. You see, that's the important thing about like weird underground things in Uganda. Like, we may not make you money, but you do it because you're passionate about it, and if it gets the recognition it gets in its possibly authentic way,
Yeah.
I think that's what's really important.
Yeah. The people who do it for the love of the game, not for money.
We also do it for the same reason.
Exactly.
Actually, I think a lot of bands do, but personally, we do it for the love because we don't do it for being famous. It's good when other people from other countries recognize our efforts because it's hard and it's expensive.
Yeah, that's usually the definition of what being underground is, because that you do it for the love of the game, not for financial benefits or what the record company wants you to do. One Finnish famous artist called Emma Numminen said when he was asked what does underground stand for, because you are so known, can you be considered underground because you are one of the most known Finnish artists? So he answered to the underground question, it means love the world, hate the system.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, this is off like say Vale of Amonition, but for me, the things that over time I decided to go by were three things. You know, so you be kind, you know, you be capable, and you do the right thing. And normally, when you're doing the right thing, you're going to be like fuck f the system because the system is trying to
Suppress.
push you in a particular way, and you're like, no, I'm going to do what I need to do because I know it's not helping anyone, and I know it is pushing out a particular message to some people.
Yeah, like as we were speaking off the record about Solstice, and you said they might not be underground, but this is what I try to portray, that even though some bands might make themselves known, they are still considered underground because of this certain mentality in them.
That I would have loved to be there. I don't know. I don't know how your experience was. Was it a good one?
Yeah, we first went to Tampere, and I was driving the two guys from Cardinals Folly, the frontman Mikko and the drummer Joni. And what is interesting about Joni is that he's a blind person. He plays drums in that Cardinals Folly. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah. But you should listen to it because it's really cool band, playing traditional doom metal.
Did you get some video stuff?
Oh yeah. The whole gig from Turku is on YouTube. It was good gig, but also there was the post in the middle of the stage, and the people were. Friday is not the same as Saturday. Saturday you are well recharged.
Was that the first time of Solstice in Finland? I hope they like the experience.
Yeah, but for example, to explain that, so Turku was the Saturday gig, and they didn't have a Helsinki gig. And in Helsinki is a large metal community. So everybody from Helsinki traveled to Turku for that Saturday gig. So they don't need to stress about traveling after work and so on. So Saturday was there was mainly Helsinki people and only few Turku people, I think, and also me. It was the night out. I left the car to my friend's place early, and I could drink and party that night. Cardinals Folly was awesome. Solstice was fucking awesome, and that gig can be found on YouTube.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
It's on your channel?
No, it's someone else's, but I will link it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we go on Sunday to Jyväskylä, which is a long way. Like these cities, Turku and Helsinki, they are on the very south coast. Tampere is like 170 kilometers north, and then there's Jyväskylä, still nearly 200 kilometers from there, or not that much. Anyway, more than 100 kilometers from Tampere north. And the Jyväskylä gig is Sunday, and it's quite, it's not that big city. And Sunday gig, there was like 20 people. It wasn't,
no.
it didn't seem like it's like beneficial, but we did it for the love of the game, and we want to support Heavy Metal Thunderstrike in Jyväskylä.
Did you advertise well as Solstice?
I think so. Well, I didn't. I did advertise, although I'm not part of the Metal Warning. I'm
You're
just
not
a
the
driver.
manager, yeah,
No, I'm just a driver for this time. But they asked me to promote it as well, so I did put out the flyers and so on. So I think it was nearly 1 year. No, not 1 year, but at least 6 months before the gigs. It was like announced this is gonna happen, and the same guys are gonna do late June next year, Japanese band Sabbath and Peruvian band Anal.
Sabbath is coming to Finland.
Finally. They did come like around 2008, but it's been a while. After that, I think they haven't been. So yeah, it was well promoted, and I think Turku was sold out, and so was probably Tampere.
I've not had a live enjoyable experience in a while.
Yeah.
So believe me, when I hear you say that you're driving Solstice around and
So have you been outside Africa?
outside Africa, unfortunate as in terms of a band or as an individual.
As your individual?
I have, but not very far. Unfortunately, I've only been to the Middle East. Yeah.
Because there's the visa issue, of course, if you would like to travel.
No, actually, now that you say this, so 2020, time for COVID. Actually, Vale of Amonition was invited to play a festival in Germany.
Whoa.
Yes, but we had some travel challenges with the band members, especially Victor. But I had already processed my visa and it was all approved. So thankfully, one of the two organizers, Dennis, brilliant dude, is like, you know what, Solomon, it will be a good experience for you to come watch the festival. It's the Tonas Metal Festival in Germany. It's annual, and he actually reached out to a band. I forget the name now. So it's a thrash band, and they were like, I could perform a song with them. You know, they sent me the tabs and everything. We had practiced everything. I was supposed to go. This is 2020, mind you. March. I was supposed to go in March. COVID hit.
Yeah. Oh, too bad.
Yeah. And then earlier this year, 2024, again, I was supposed to go again for the same festival, but now this time as an honorary invite to just experience the festival because I missed the other one. And then again, now this time it wasn't COVID this time. Now it was visa issues because the application time was a bit, I believe, short, and then we didn't know that the process had changed. They were using now a proxy in between before you would go to the embassy direct, get your, if I'm getting or I'm not getting right away, but now you are in between a proxy. So the proxy is you can't know, you're not interfacing with the embassy, and it created challenges.
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, in terms of traveling the music, Germany has been, even next year might be a possibility. I don't know if Dennis hears this. We could make it happen, but no, only the Middle East, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think if we would start to wonder about an idea of you performing in Finland? Would you consider
Are you kidding me?
if there would be some other mentionable bands and you?
No. I will speak. I will speak for Vale of Amonition, and I will speak for myself. We play to express ourselves, and any opportunity that comes up, that's something that we will work hard and tirelessly to work towards. And listen, Finland, Finland for me is one of like the parents, if I may say, to metal and do metal, heavy metal, metal death. So performing in such an area, 100% would be glorious.
Yeah, there's some kind of gallop of that in which country there is most metal bands in relationship to the population, and it's definitely Finland. That relation to population, there is most metal bands.
Yeah. I believe like there was, I do not know, but maybe in my mind it was like there was a healthy competition between Sweden and Finland in terms of metal music. But
Well,
for
yeah.
me, I always lean towards the Finnish side.
Okay, nice to hear. But yeah, when it's related to the population, it's also unfair competition
Yeah,
in that because we are like 5 million people, and I don't know how much Sweden's are, like probably closer to 15 million. I'm not gonna check it out, but I feel like they are nearly 3 times more people in the country than
possibly.
yeah. So
Of course, we are getting older now. Responsibilities are getting a bit tighter and harder now, but we do what we love. We love what we do. Sorry.
yeah, because it wasn't clear to me in the first place that are you a live performing band?
We are a live performer. We played live. Some with a bit of challenges, but when we need to play live, we play live.
Cool.
We play live. We like I told you, we have some members in Vale of Ammunition, extra members. Mordecai and on bass, and Jude. Jude is a drummer, and I play the guitars. Victor has the capacity to play second guitars and sing. So playing live is not a challenge for us.
Very nice. So what took Victor to Canada, and how long has he been there?
This might be a bit personal to him.
Okay, you don't need to answer.
But yeah, it is special circumstances. Like Uganda is not really good, very open country. Yeah, culturally. So sometimes you have to be in a place that gives you the best opportunities for what you are.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Uganda.
Yeah, you don't need to speak for someone else's any more than that. So, but it's definitely a challenge for your band.
But if
Juu.
Ei saatana.
Hyvää iltaa.
Hyvää iltaa.
So many things.
Mitäs niin?
No, Vesa, terve.
Ukko.
Terve Ukko, mistä päin?
Tuosta maan päältä.
Mutta
10 vuotta asunut täällä.
Oho. Mä oon nyt niinku joulukuussa ihan ekaa kertaa täällä, niinku 4. päivä tuli ja nyt 26. päivä Tapanina lähden taakkaan sinne. Että
Okei. Mikä meininki?
tässä on mun tyttöystävä ja hänen perässä.
Sure,
You wanna say hi to my fellow Finnish Ukko, Helen.
Mistä päin sä oot?
Helsingistä,
Mistä päin?
Kontulasta.
No niin, mä aloin sanomaan, että menee ehkä itäänpäin minun arvaus. Eikä edes Lähi-itään.
Joo, koska se on hyvin eri maailma kuin niinku Helsinki niinku yleisesti. Että en mä niinku tunne semmoista tunneyhteyttä keskustaan, kuin mitä mä tunnen lähiöihin.
Tunteeko kukaan enää keskustaa mitään hengellistä?
Niin mistä päin sä oot?
Mä oon Rovaniemeltä alun perin, mutta mä oon sitten asunut Stadissa kyllä 97 vuodesta 2015, joskin niistä viimeiset 5 vuotta ehkä virallisesti Espoossa, joka vähän hävettää. Tiedätkö, Barbari Volvo, rivitalo. Oli sitä Rodesian koira, eikä kultainen noute.
Joo.
Mutta siis tää on, mulla on safarifirma täällä Ugandassa.
Okei.
Ollut 10 vuotta ja
No wow.
tämmönen meininki tossa kokki käymässä pelaamassa golfia täällä näin, että pelataan golfia, tehdään hyvää ruokaa ja sauna. Mulla on sauna tossa mäen päällä myös.
Lämpiikö se tänä iltana?
Ei, aattona lämpi.
Okei. Hei, jatketaan vähän ajan päästä. Meillä on tässä juttu kesken.
Tukkoidaan, mä istutaan tossa.
Yes, no niin, hyvä. They have a safari business. Finnish people he's been 10 years here, living up the hill. They have safari business here. He said sauna is. They're warming up the sauna on Christmas Eve.
I was about to ask you about the sauna, thing, the sauna culture in, Finland.
Yeah. Like it's like our church. We have throughout generations we have given birth, we have died, we have healed our wounds, we have healed our spiritual wounds in sauna, because the weather is most of the year it's fucking cold and miserable, so we heat the sauna.
Actually, there is a huge I don't know if you need to include this, but
Yeah, we can edit it out.
One of the funny things, there is a band called Winter Sun.
Yeah, I know.
Is it, how do you pronounce it?
Jari.
Yari.
Yeah.
He did a GoFundMe page to build the studio to record the second album for Winter Sun. And then it took so long, and then people said, this guy went and built a sauna. Instead of recording the album.
Oh yeah, the latest. I understand the latest album is called Time 2, but it took very much time. So I have listened to Vale of Amonition quite briefly, but I can have the sense that this is some reasonable stuff. Like it's definitely doom metal, and like it's something to be taken seriously, because when you hear there's a band from anywhere in Africa, you can have a little prejudice towards it, and you can have a listen and think, okay, I listened to it once, I'm not going to listen to it again. But Vale of Amonition definitely is a serious band, and for example, that there is that one album cover where it's like a bonfire and then there's people around it. So there is some influence from those tribal voodoo, maybe.
Yeah, tribal. Yeah. If you do notice, the drumming on the earlier releases was a bit very tribal. It was very intentional to derive that tribal element. Listen, like I said before, spirituality will always be a part of us. And at the core of it, you want to invoke something unhuman in what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So definitely with whatever we write, whatever we try to put in there, it might, in some cases, it may not seem so or sound so, but it's 100% very, very, very tribal driven.
Yeah.
At the core of it all.
Yeah. Because sometimes when band is of course you are developed band already, it's not, but your early releases have that primitive.
Yes.
And some bands make it. Some bands are just like a little bit humorous because of that, but there's like when you have that subtle touch, you can be like a little bit lousy but still believable. So that's what you got. Like, for example, the band in Finland called Minotauri is a doom metal band, and this guy Arska has many projects. For example, Morningstar was one of the early doom metal bands in Finland, and that has a little. The early Vale of Amonition things have a little bit of the same thing that Morningstar, some of the releases have.
I'll say it is more of like you don't care about. It's kind of irony, but so when you're writing music, you're probably writing it for someone else, but most importantly, you're writing it for yourself.
Yeah.
You're releasing it, and so whatever it is that we sound like, be it a bit primitive sometimes, a bit serious sometimes, we are doing it for ourselves. And of course, there is a danger of, like, say you have people who like a particular sound about you, and then they see you've changed the sound, and then they're going to say, "Oh, you're no longer who you are." There is the danger of that. But like I said before, everything we write is very intentional in how we feel, and at the core of how we feel, always, always, always,
Yeah.
there will be that. What is the word that voodoo? Instinct at the core of us. Yeah.
I don't know how deep into this I should go, but saying this, but I've witnessed this in the Christian community, that if you try to point out that I have interest in going to, can we go to tribal tribal gathering, and then they might give this backlash that they communicate with the dead. That's not what we do in our Christian community.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
They are like tribal rituals or clan rituals that are sometimes required to be performed. But on the Christian element, it's I have a situation like some Christians do heavily believe, not all, but there are sections of some, because even in Christianity, you have the Catholics, the Pentecost, and there are some in there who actually do believe that the issue of clans and clan customs and norms actually considered demonic and satanic.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
I've been to Sunday services twice. Today we didn't go because yesterday we were traveling and so on. But it's interesting. I mean, I go there out of curiosity. And last time the pastor was saying, "Is there witches around?" I kind of felt like maybe I should raise a hand or something, but I was like, maybe it's not.
No, it wouldn't be wise.
It would be wise, but it's been interesting. But I don't. It's not like I'm standing as a polar opposite to them. I find it interesting as well, and they are one of. They stand for some reasonable people in Uganda, because you could do much worse things than be part of Christian community.
Yeah, way worse things.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I do believe there are Christians who understand that and who make peace with, like, their non-Christian friends or colleagues or acquaintances, be it them being Muslim or they don't believe, but on like a regular basis they understand them at a human condition basis. But then there are those who would never get it. So, like, for me, when I'm with friends and they're talking about why don't you go to church or things like this, I'll say, but I will quote the Bible sometimes, and they're like, "How come is it that you know the Bible so well?" I'm like, "Of course, for you to be able to talk about something, you should know about it. Like, it would be ignorant for me to say something about Christianity when I have not actually read the Bible."
Yeah.
What that makes me, so this brings me to also the aspect of, at least for me, from what I understand, the aspect of, I don't know if this would be taken out of context, but the aspect of satanism. The word sounds so horrible and so wrong. But if you do actually check the Wikipedia definition of Satanism, it's not about individualism.
Exactly. It's not. But then there's different thing is Satan worshiping. Then it becomes the Christian aspect of Satan. But Satanism is about individualism.
Yeah. But like at the saying the word out loud makes you sound like you're going to sacrifice babies.
Yeah.
Things like that, but which is not true. I guess this is a dive back into the spirituality aspect.
I need to take a picture of my pizza because it's the first most Italian pizza I've seen. Because the pizzas in Uganda are more like pan pizza style, like the American pan pizza style.
Really?
Yeah. They are very thick from the bottom, but this is thin.
Thin crust.
Yeah. The best pizza in Uganda is here. At least, well, I don't.
Even taste wise.
Taste is good, yeah. When you add a little Tabasco. By the way, speaking of Tabasco, like my first introduction was when I was in 5th grade, aged 11, and to our grade became the first Somali guy. Before that, we had in my grade there was never any Africans.
You've never seen them.
Yeah, but in year 95, to our class became a Somali guy named Muhammad. And when we are in the school diner, every meal that is served, he puts Tabasco and the Finnish mustard. Well, this is not Finnish mustard,
American.
but yeah, but every dish, whether it was pizza or pea soup or rice soup with some sweet berry sauce beside it, he would put Tabasco and mustard. And it was a little bit like even in ice cream he put mustard. And,
Even in ice cream.
yeah. And we were like,
Did you ever ask him why?
I think it was more like he wanted to make a spectacle out of. But this was pretty much my first African friend, so I apologize.
But did you ever ask him why he was doing that?
I think yes. And the answer probably is that he really likes those tastes. That's all. How can you judge? But we loved him because he was a little bit rebellious for the conservative Muslim society, because he was criticizing why do we have to learn by heart the Quran in Quran school in Finland.
Yeah.
Like we have to learn by heart all the sentences that is in the book, and if we don't remember some, we are being beaten by belt or by fist.
Oh.
So he criticized it a lot, and he was into very much like he liked Western music like Aerosmith and all, a little bit like that. He was playing ice hockey. He was more leaning towards. Okay, he was 95. He was already 11, so he was born in Somalia, came here as an immigrant, but he criticized it and. He became a friend because of this, that he didn't just eat it without biting not swallowing without biting this that is been fed.
Did you where is he now?
No, unfortunately I lost contact. We were just together at the 5th and 6th grade, and where he went to the upper grades I don't know. And he has so typical name, Muhammad Ahmed. How can I find?
Very common name.
Yeah.
So you play soccer?
Yeah. Last year's, unfortunately, less.
Always been playing soccer?
Well, it was in my youth. It was more just like a hobby that we were playing with friends in the local yard, and I never had the courage in my younger age to break the barrier of entering a team. For I thought, I'm a little bit chubby and they will bully me and whatever. I'm not to be taken serious. I should have gone, but I was too shy, whatever. It was only at my adulthood that I was part of forming a hobby team. It was called FC Impalers.
FC Impalers?
Yeah, and it had the Vlad the Impaler logo here. And yeah, so part of us were metalheads, part of us not, but it was like the team. So that sparked the hope and all the kind of taste to playing in a team. And then I went to a little bit more serious team called Pesa team, which is a pub team in our local neighborhood. Of course, we played 7th division then, which is not nowhere near professional, but we were playing serious, and it was a serious hobby, so to speak. Because in my suburb, I was always feeling I'm an outsider, but through football, I felt I'm a little bit at least accepted.
So it's soccer, football is it's popular.
Somewhat, yeah. Of course, number one sport is ice hockey in Finland, but football is something that everybody can play without buying gear, or they just can have the ball and go on. Yeah. And nowadays we have so good fields. In my childhood in the 90s there was these gravel fields mostly, but now there is artificial grass everywhere. In my neighborhood, there is probably more than 5 artificial grass fields.
For
And
soccer.
yeah, and that just tells you that the conditions, they put a lot of tax money in it, and Finland is starting to produce more serious youth prodigies and so on. So yeah,
There's a league.
there's a league called Veikkausliiga, and every now and then, well, the best team is HJK usually, but this year they didn't win. But anyway, every now and then they go. Once they got into Europa League, and I think this year into Conference League, but Champions League only once, but that was 97-98 season, and then in Champions League I think there was only 16 teams. So that year Finnish team penetrated into Champions League, and it was amazing achievement. And not the last Euro, but the one before that was around, it was supposed to be 2020, but it was COVID. It prolonged into next year, and they were able to play 2021. So Finland first time qualified for major tournament was that tournament, the COVID time tournament, and it was a huge thing for Finland to qualify for that.
In the world stage.
Yeah, because it's not seen as a footballing country really. Even in Scandinavia, Sweden and
Sweden is
and
strong.
Denmark is next. Yeah, Sweden was on bronze medal in 1994 in US World Cup. Sweden won bronze, and Denmark won the Euros in '92. So they have reputation of being having football culture, but Finland has been way behind. Yeah, we cannot even imagine winning silverware in any competition.
It means you can never see rugby there.
Yeah, but who knows? The conditions are all the time getting better. In the 90s, there was a guy called Jari Litmanen, who was one of the best in Europe, and he came from a smaller town, Lahti, in Finland. But he had the natural born talent. He went through the mud. He went to Ajax Amsterdam. He went to Barcelona, Liverpool, and he won the Champions League with Ajax.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
National treasure.
Yeah, but he's half Moroccan, so he has African blood.
Well, you don't have to downplay it.
Yeah.
It's still important.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Finland. So.
Yes. Because in football is a form of art. Like you have to, or you don't have to, but the best players like have the hawk-eye vision that they don't need to see where their teammates are, and they just sense it. Of course, there are more rough players who just defend or tackle or whatever, but then there are those who are 1 in a million who have this, who are playing. He was playmaker, so he knew where to pass, he knew how to rhythm the play. So he was he's called king in Finland. Kuningas. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we have a rugby league, but I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
Not sure. I think maybe it is. In some years it is active, and some years not. I can't say anything because I don't know. But because I heard it, some people talk about it. That I think they tried a rugby league, but then it went out and came back again.
Not rugby union. But
no, in Finland it's not such an interesting thing.
It's funny as much as I was about to say Uganda is a small country, but we do have 40 million people.
Exactly.
But interestingly, though, rugby is sort of a consistent sport. It is not the most prominent sport in the country, but it is one of the most consistent, in addition to soccer. And as much as it doesn't have a huge following, at least on the global scale, it does appear from time to time. And for me, of course, just like every kid, you grow up playing the soccer, you play the cricket, you play all the weird things. The day I got introduced to rugby, I cancelled all other sports. I said, I think that's the thing that I want to play.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, for me it was like we have 4 seasons. So summer, spring, autumn football, winter ice hockey. Like that's the thing that we had in our suburb
Ah.
field. It is put to ice in the winter, so we skate and we play ice hockey. But when the temperature goes above zero, of course, then ice melts and you start playing football again. So that's like where community kids come together.
Seasonal sports.
Yeah, and when I was young, like 10 years, 11 years old, I could spend the whole day at the field, whether it's football or ice hockey. I go in the morning, I go home when the sun sets, and I don't feel hunger or
You're a kid.
yeah, yeah,
Kids don't feel those things.
yeah. But yeah, like as I said, I went into football like quite late. We formed that hobby football team when I was 22, and then joined this local pub team for 4 years. And we also went to this certain thing called Swamp Soccer World Championships. We have Swamp Soccer World Championships. It happens in Finland every year.
Swamp soup.
Yeah, so swamp is something that it's not solid. You
can sink in.
you can sink there, and you have to use like electrician tape to put your shoes around your ankle so they don't stay in the yeah, so they don't sink.
Stick in the mud.
Yeah. And yeah, so it was quite an experience. We won 2 games, lost 2 games, and which wasn't enough to go to the playoffs in the first year. Second year, I think we lost all the games, and it was, I don't know, even if it was July, there was like halos flying. It was like, blocks of ice pouring from the sky, even in the middle of the summer, and we were like freezing, like how can we play here?
In summer?
Yeah, I don't know how it was like so in
The
that year.
temperature in summer is like what?
Well, it's like it's now in Uganda, like 20, 25. But recent summers have been in Helsinki like too hot, like 30, and I cannot go out in this. I go only when the sun sets. I go out. That's. But the weather that has been here in December, it's been reasonable. Like
Rainy a bit.
yeah, the cloudy weather is perfect. Like the gothic weather. Like you can hear the Black Sabbath intro.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I think maybe because of the long winters, that's how maybe you guys can be able to sit in the house and write music. You're not going anywhere, so
Yes.
you just write music and music and music. You're not going out. I think that plays a huge factor on writing, because even me, if I'm always out there, I do not have a chance to sit down and be able to create, write music. But when I'm in the house and I'm not moving too much, the inspiration is there.
Yeah, I get it. But there are, some. I always found it interesting when metal bands come out of warm countries, like Singapore has a scene, Brazil has a huge scene.
Oh, very huge.
Sarcophago.
Sepultura is from where?
Brazil also, yeah. And as I mentioned, Mystifier. But yeah, there's Volcano. Yeah, many bands, but and many of the Brazilian bands, their influence came from Finnish hardcore scene in the 80s. Like for example, Terveet Kädet was a huge influence. Sarcophago played Terveet Kädet covers, even though Terveet Kädet lyrics are in Finnish. They probably
but
don't. They have no idea what they are singing about.
It can happen. You're like, I do not care what I'm hearing. This music sounds cool.
Yeah.
But just speaking of scenes, I do not know. I will tell you 100%. There is no scene in Uganda.
yeah, I can imagine.
There is no scene. It is pure isolation. Like proper pure isolation. If you're into this kind of music and you want to go and watch it live, your best closest chance of watching heavy metal live, you get on a bus and go to Nairobi. Because at least for them, they have a bit of consistency in terms of like trying to their bands is trying to stay active because for them they have way more bands compared to Uganda. And one thing we do appreciate or what we loved about them is that whenever they were trying to do their things, they would try to invite us to play. So that gave us an opportunity to perform, live gigs. But in terms of Uganda, I think the only entity that ever invited us, as far as I know, in the beginning maybe there could have been something before I joined. Hell, but Nyege Nyege was the only one which tried to invite us to play.
Oh,
Yeah. But Victor is not.
interested about.
No, he was not here at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So that did not happen.
I tried to contact them as well, but they didn't respond because I was a little bit interested. Is some of their physical releases available, but they didn't respond to email.
Oh, Nyege Nyege. Last year they played this band from Kenya called Shovu. The black, I believe black metal band. You've heard of them?
Which one?
Shovu.
Show what?
CHOVU.
I haven't heard.
Well, they played last year. I did not watch.
Wow.
And even a year before, there's another band, Kenyan band called Seeds of Datura, that also played some years before.
Okay.
For us, the only thing that Uganda has ever held that you could say that you have a chance of seeing someone in a leather jacket or leather pants were some events called rock fests.
Yeah, I've seen some like commercials about it, some posters of Rockfest.
Yeah, and even the bands, there are no really actual local bands that are even playing rock music because none is releasing an album.
Yeah, Nyege, you were talking about that.
Yeah, so they invited us, but Victor was not around at the time. So, and we've kind of there's no motivation to seek out actively. Maybe we do have an obligation to reach out to the local community, but the local community has not been very welcoming. I can guarantee you that before I did join the Vale of Amonition, there used to be a radio station. I don't listen to radio anymore. Called Touch FM. They would have like segments or sections in the day where they would play rock or metal requests, like an hour you request, like it's in quotes metal and rock. When I say metal, meaning like chances are there were nothing underground was going to be requested. So there was a DJ that they reached out to give, hey, can you promote our band to play? And the DJ, he said, no, your stuff is a bit too hard. Maybe if you play some covers, we just said, nah. I think
it would be such huge compromise for why.
And
what
if
reason?
If you're telling me to play Candlemas cover, maybe.
But nobody will know.
You're telling me to play an Aerosmith cover now.
Yes, I know.
That's not going to.
Yeah, that's what the audience would like to hear, something they could relate to. And
yeah, if you ask a lot of people, okay, do you listen to? Well, the common thing everyone says, oh, I listen to everything, and you're like, are you sure? Yeah, the term they use for it is like, you listen to that heavy rock. Call it heavy rock. And in my friends, not very many. Yeah. So there's no scene. There's no.
Yeah, and even Nyege Nyege, which is a big thing. kind of. It's a tourist attraction, like
Big cultural thing.
yeah, like people travel from Europe and maybe America to that festival. But like here, it's locally, it seems like it's a little bit of a not accepted thing, or at least in the Christian community, they see it as something like it's promoting. It's a free sex and sexual rights festival, pride movements, so and so.
I wouldn't use the term conservative because conservative has a lot of facets, but Uganda as a nation is a bit very conservative. So if you have an event and even they are sharing pictures of people probably not wearing that much, people wearing corpse paint, people wearing weird things, some
Like
people,
neon lights and neon colors.
Actually, this is an interesting thing that Nyege Nyeges, I think it is still even a thing now, that before the Nyege Nyege starts, they bring a shaman to make a perform so that it does not rain on that day. Yeah. So a Christian will see that as
Witchcraft.
right, you're promoting devil worshipping. Yeah. This is
Yeah.
not good. So even from the president of the event, before the event can start, they're already saying that someone has to come and bless the day so that my friend, it's going to appear that way. And then you have bands. If you look up Shovu does like theatrics. They like to look weird and they experiment with their sound. Definitely, such a band playing on such an event. Of course, there are so many other components also experimenting at Nyege Nyege, because people are there from different places. But you will find that most of the people who are experiencing Nyege Nyege to the fullest or appreciating it are going to be people not from Uganda. They're going to be Kenyans. They're going to be people from like different individuals, and that is a sad thing because it would be nice to have. You say like Nairobi has Kenya has the Nairobi Metal Fest. It hasn't happened for quite some time, but they also have some fests called like the Undertow, where bands go and play. We do not have a metal fest here. Which bands are you going to invite? You're going to invite Kenyan bands. You're not going to afford them.
Yeah, that's very much what I understand, that Vale of Amonition is the only serious metal band from Uganda. And also,
I wouldn't want it to be like that. I would actually love if we had like 5, 6, 7 bands playing in Uganda. It would be really good because then, as Vale of Amonition, we can, actually be able to say, oh, we are going to play a serious gig because there are going to be people there. But Victor gets on a flight from Canada. I come from the Congo, and we get Mordecai from Nairobi and Judah. Then we come and rehearse. And there's no one interested.
yeah.
It's sad a bit. It is actually sad.
So does Victor come often to here, so you're able to rehearse?
No, we only rehearse if we need to perform. But so if like there's a gig that is supposed to come out, then we plan and we meet in one singular point for 2 weeks and rehearse. So, but most of the time you better be individually practicing.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to perform, it's like you've been playing together for like 6 months in the same rehearsal.
Yeah. So I will do my part to make you active. Hopefully in future you will make a Finnish tour. But
I can guarantee you that is not even a hope. That is like, please make it happen.
yeah, it can happen. It's just hopefully through this interview people will get the spark that they will get. I've been spreading around your name to friends in group chats and whatever. Listen to this band, it's serious, and I don't know how many have taken it like this might be serious. Nobody has really said anything, but hopefully from the interview people are like, this is interesting and let's work on it.
And if it wasn't for me being working right now in Congo right now, because I have a contract there that I'm trying to do, I would actually be in, because actually we do record in Nairobi. That's also another sad part, that no studio here understands what, at least in the personal experiences we've had, no studio here understands how to record what we are recording.
Yeah.
And that's why we had to actually go to Kenya. Actually, I go to Nairobi to record my parts.
Yeah.
That's Zimbabwean. But yeah, if I wasn't in DRC for these months that I've been there, right now I would actually be in Nairobi recording, because we are writing a new album.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully it will invoke some voodoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I feel good about it. It is. We try to do something different with everything that we are doing, but it's all threaded and it's the same. However much it might sound different from the previous one, but it is always the same identity. It is always Vale of Amonition. Always.
So can you explain what the mysterious vale or valley, what the band name stands for?
Well, it is a valley, of Ammunition, and I believe the members of Vale of Ammunition interpret it differently, because when Vale of Ammunition was started, Victor had a vision for Vale of Ammunition. But when I joined Vale of Ammunition, personally, I created a home in my own home in Vale of Ammunition. So for me, the veil, I call it the veil. Like it's a veil, like it's like a certain threshold, like an unseen wall that, like, if I am in the veil, I am Solomon Dust. And when I'm out of the veil, of course, I was in proxy Solomon Dust before I joined the veil, but without now, the actual identity of Solomon Dust is in Veil of Ammunition. So for me, there's like a screen, like a veil in there. That when I open this thing, like there is a valley, and there's a collection of, like, say, spirits that are like on a particular journey to, like, I would call it maybe a spiritual migration, towards a particular destiny that you do not know yet, but you're a collection of souls in one particular place and trying to find yourself in some unknown destiny. Always, if you look at some of the themes of the albums, those of Tatarian ancestry, you look at some of the songs, Sons of Moribund, you're like, it's a collection of, like, histories in one particular valley. That is it for me.
Yeah, okay. That's a very thorough answer. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the opportunity to
Yeah.
talk to you.